Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Masks Off. I'm so happy that you're here with me today. And I have a guest, and her name is Deborah Corbin. And we are going to have such an awesome conversation. I can feel the energy already, and I'm super excited. But before we jump in, I'm going to start with a quote. And the quote is actually from Deborah. And her quote is, "Your life experiences do not have to define you. Rather, you have the power to allow them to refine you." Oh, such an awesome quote. Oh my goodness. So before we start talking, because I just can't wait. I'm like chomping at the bit. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Let the listeners know who you are. What do you do? Whatever you want to share.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. I love your whole mission here with Masks Off, and I'm honored to be here. So thank you. Who am I? There's lots of fancy titles I could say, but who I really am is a lover of people, and I call myself a human potential advocate and a soul activator. So those are my own unique terms to say, when people ask you, are you a coach? Are you a mentor? What are you? And I'm like, those terms just do not work for me. Of course, we all understand them, so we use them. But I want to go deeper with everything I do. So that when I really sat with myself, what are you? Who are you? And it goes back to my teaching days. I've been an educator since, oh my God, I don't even know how many years. I can't even count anymore. But human potential is something that starts to get marred so early on that we don't see ourselves because of all of the projections that people place on us, and we believe, and so on. So that title, I want to bring people back to who they are at the soul self, and that's why I call myself a soul activator, because we are defined within ourselves deeply, but we do forget. So I get really, really, I don't want to say emotional. I get really connected to seeing people at the heart. And so I did that as an educator. And now my platform in the coaching industry is really just a different classroom, but it's the same work, because my philosophy is to work with the person in front of me and not have a cookie cutter, come on in, we're going to do this, this, this. And so I want to see you. I do see you. I am highly intuitive, psychic. I see what's in the way, and I am a brutal truth teller. And when I say brutal, I mean, I'll say what things that have to be said. And sometimes it does stop people in their tracks, like, whoa, what? I haven't even looked at myself like that. And that's the whole point. I want to have an impact on your life, whether we're standing in the grocery store or whether you invest in my services. I feel like we can come together in even in the smallest ways to impact people. So yeah. Who am I? Definitely a truth teller.
Well, okay. So my question is then, since you are able to tell people like it is and call out the truth, did you ever struggle with the people pleaser mask?
I was not a people pleaser. I am not a people pleaser. That's not my thing. The mask, if I had to say what mask did I ever wear, the perfectionism mask was a huge one for me. And I would say I rode that out through a good portion of my adult life. And hence going into this self-development work as we do prior to really, really stepping up as a leader in the industry and continue to do. I realized as I started to take responsibility for everything, that subscribing to that title or mask or whatever was hindering me at my own potential. And when you get into a true, deep truth telling session with self, and you come face to face with these paradigms that you've been running, and you look at the deleterious effects that they've had, and then you have that awakening, you say to yourself, or I said to myself, well, okay, now what? You can go back to subscribing to that, because that's easy, kind of. I mean, it's miserable, but it's easy because it's what you know, it's your default mechanism. Or you can say, I refuse to go back to that. I refuse to be a perfectionist. Now, what I want to clarify though is perfectionism is the death of inspiration, of course, but it is not to be confused with excellence. So when I say to myself, I'm a perfectionist, that already makes me feel restricted. That means I'm never there. I'm not done. It's like I'm never good enough. But if I set that aside and I say, how about I just bring my excellence? To me, that right away changes my energy. It makes me excited. Oh my God, I can bring the best of me. I can do that. And I'm excited to do that. Whereas the other one is like a big stop sign. Oh, I'm never there. And I saw that loop. Just, oh my God, no, it's not good enough. So I'm not ready. So you're feeding your brain these stories that you're living up to. So it's this self-perpetuating cycle to nowhere. And because I really got in tune with the ordainment that I have on my heart to really help people step up and lead, I have to be a leader. So I can't go back to that story. Now, does it show up at times? It does, not so much anymore per se, but sometimes I will feel restriction in my body when I'm approaching something, and then I will go, oh, wait a minute, there's those feelings again. Like it comes in, you don't necessarily think about it. It's an energetic thing. And so I have to stop and say, okay, remember that feeling. It doesn't even feel good right now. Why would you want to keep going? So I have a lot of tools that I recalibrate, but I'm just very, very committed now to the awareness that that type of thought process, that mask, keeps me from my own greatness, and I'm no longer available for that. So
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for saying that. So do you have any examples or stories that you can share with the listeners on how that perfection mask showed up for you? Like, what did it look like for you? Because so many people might just think that a perfectionist is one whose hair has to be perfect and their clothes have to be perfect and they have to have the right outfit on and their house has to look a certain way and their house has to be clean all the time. And while certainly a perfectionist may do all those things, I feel like it's so much more multi-layered than that. There's so many layers and nuances to being a perfectionist. So I don't know if you have some stories or examples to share on how it showed up for you.
well, I have one huge glaring one that jumps to the top of mind. I mean, there are numerous, because like I said, I rode that out for a good portion of my adult life.
Me too.
The biggest one that comes to mind, although there were so many silent, insidious perfectionisms playing out on the regular, but when I wrote my master's thesis, I took on a project that was really a doctoral type project. My advisor said, you know, this is kind of like a doctoral thing. Why don't you save it for your doctorate? And I'm like, no, I want to do this. I'm always up, but let's go big or go home. But I did a study, and I had to catch a lot of data from different components and then assimilate it and put it in a paper and do the so when it came time, I literally froze, because in my mind, this is not going to be good enough. I mean, and it was big. So to approach it from that energy of this is hard, I'm never going to write this good enough, blah, blah, blah. It literally overtook me, and I shut down, and I literally packed up my research and all of it in a grocery bag, like a brown paper grocery bag.
Yeah.
I put it all in there when I finally said, I can't even do this. And I put it in my coat closet. This is a true story. I can even see the house I've lived in the coat closet. Put it down under the long coat. So tucked it back and shut the closet door and left it there for 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, oh no, that's not. So it delayed my graduation. It was always right there in the back of my mind, even though I thought it was tucked away in the back of the closet. So it robbed me of a good portion of whatever would have happened during that year. But it was that approach. Now, what's really hard is having to get that out a year later and try to make sense of it, write the paper, and graduate. So I get all the awards that I give to myself for getting that done.
Mm.
But that was huge. When I look back at that, I go, oh my goodness, that was so real for me that it wouldn't be good enough. And that just this the overwhelm in that mask, in that identity of, oh my gosh, it's going to have to be so perfect. I got to go before a panel of professors to, present this. And it just all the stories. And that's what happens is we cycle with the made up story and we live it out, and it robs us of everything. So that one is top of mind for, wow, girl, that was serious.
Yeah. And what I heard you say in that story was that there is a feeling of not enoughness, not good enoughness, right? And so often those stories come from when we were little kids. Somebody at some point delivered a message to you, to me, anyone else that struggles with not feeling lovable, not enough, not worthy of love and belonging, received a message somewhere along the way that they weren't enough. So do you have a story behind that from your
Well,
childhood?
my mom is my best advocate, but she also subscribes to a level of excellence that is almost like perfectionism,
Yep.
whether she meant to or not. Now, my
Right.
sister is my earth angel and my best friend,
Mm.
and she is a top scholar. So in my little psyche, I was like, oh my God, never going to be able to live up to that. And I didn't
Mm.
until I went to college. And then I was starting to get over all that, not over it, but seeing myself differently. Um, what was the question though? I know it's about the self-esteem, but
Right.
what was it?
So going with is your sister older than you?
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. So you said we make up stories, or as kids, we attach an
Yeah.
interpretation or a meaning to events that take place, which are far from the truth. So if your sister was older than you and she was excelling and she was doing really well, and here you are younger and you're looking up at her and saying, measuring, oh, I'm not that, I'm not that,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're somehow interpreting meaning and
I'm
messages.
not good enough.
You're not good
Hmm.
enough. And so,
Hmm.
and then no wonder when you had to do that paper that you froze.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of unspoken messages rolling around that we, bring in as real truth anyway, even if they're not, nobody was saying be perfect. It was just kind of something that I took it within myself. Um, the interesting thing about all of our what we might perceive as deficits, or oh my gosh, they actually turn into your greatest awarenesses and opportunities for growth, right? And this is the crux of the work that I do now, is because, well, one, my education stories with all the grades I've taught, I have so many stories to see how this all plays out. But, you know, people are still stuck in those paradigms. They don't realize that we can use that information. Hence the quote. We do not have to let this define who we are for a lifetime, like a death sentence or a jail sentence or whatever sentence. And as soon as you realize you can put a pause button on that whole story, like a stop button, and then you can go back and you can extrapolate the gold out of the calling in that. So if I feel like I'm not good enough, the real calling in that is, come on over here to the good enough side. That's a calling. It's like the polarity of it. But again, people don't realize that's even a possibility or have the modalities to figure out how to get through all that. And no offense against traditional psychotherapy, but
Right.
psychotherapy is very different than having coaching and proper methodologies to guide you through the thinking, the reframing, the subconscious mind, and some of the things to get through that. And it's powerful, and it's life changing, and that's why I am leading a charge and a mission to hand out permission slips.
Mm,
Permission slip to change, permission slip to be the leader of your own self, right? So I talk about taking radical self responsibility. This is what I mean. I mean, okay, I don't care what your story is. We're going to look at it. We're not stuck there. This is how we move through it. And it's not we're going to forget it, or we're going to use it. We're going to use it as the gold that it is, to refine us. And again, my greatest strengths have come out of that story. They really have. And some other things, but
I 100% agree. And the same is true for me because I wore the people pleaser mask and the perfection mask. They have been the greatest pain in my life, to be a people pleaser and a perfectionist. And
yeah.
because I have done the inner work for the last 25 years, I've been on a journey of personal growth and inner work, that I am where I am now. So that's why I do love your quote, because I have taken my experiences, my pain, and rather than allowing it to define me for if I have another 30 or 40 years to go, rather than it continuing to permeate my life, that when it comes time to be on my deathbed, that I say to myself, God, I wish I didn't live for other people, or God, I wish I was just more true to myself. God, I wish I was
Right.
more authentic and showed up fully. I don't want to say that. I don't want to be thinking that, feeling that. I want to know that I've taken
Yes.
the pain and I've turned it
Mhm.
into a paradise, which is now my program, which is the 5-step power pathway, where I help people pleasers and perfectionists to be more powerful. So it's
Mm.
exactly that. So the one thing I would ask, though, is this. I know that my soul came into this lifetime as a seeker. I've been a seeker since I was little. I was also a teacher and educator, and I just have been a seeker. I, when you go to the people who study souls and things like that, like, I'm known as a scholar. And so that's what I'm here to do. What do you say and think for the people who do go a lifetime and never change, and then they leave this lifetime and they let their pain define them instead of refine them? Is it because they didn't have that seeker ability in them and that was their soul's purpose, or the callings were there but they didn't hear them? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, this is a really big question.
I know, I'm known for doing these big questions, honestly.
We can be here till tomorrow now. We're getting juicy.
This is what I
Um,
think about all the time, though. This is how my brain works.
yeah. Yeah. Everybody has their own understanding of how this all goes. My understanding is that souls are on their own journey. Some are infant souls, meaning their awareness isn't fully, it isn't, it hasn't been around that many times. So there are different awarenesses in souls. And so it's not that they came in and didn't actualize themselves. They actually did, for
Mm,
that soul's path that time.
yeah.
And when you really start to understand that, meaning if you adopt that, I'm not pushing that on anyone, it's my understanding, you look at people differently. And it's not that we excuse people for, let's say, bad behavior, that we've been abused or we've been misused or whatever. But you do have a different understanding, because it is their awareness of this time around, and that is their journey. So we have to respect it. It's not that they didn't do something. They actually did exactly what they were supposed to do. So
And that's my understanding as well. And I did have that, I don't know what you really call them, but let's say a soul reading or whatever it is. I don't know. And I was told that right now that I am a mature soul.
yes,
So
and
it's
me too. But
yeah,
that doesn't mean we're, better than
better than
anyone. We're just been cycling through.
yeah,
So we earned our awareness, right?
exactly, exactly. Okay, so
Yeah.
that does make sense, and that's my understanding as well. So before we round up the conversation, let's talk a little bit more about radical self responsibility, because I'm huge on that. I feel like I spent so many years being a victim, and so many years because I wanted to just blame and not take radical self-responsibility. And I don't know if this is where you go with it when you talk about radical self-responsibility, but for me, I feel like at this point now is that, let's say someone does something or says something that triggers me and it's really mean or whatever the case is, like what that person said or did might be an asshole move and may have been being an asshole, but I still have a part, right? I don't have to sit there and be a victim and feel like, oh, this was done unto me. No, I co-created the situation and I have a responsibility to show up, well, to take that opportunity, first of all, and look in the mirror and see what it is that I need to learn about myself and do differently, what it's bringing up for me. And then I have choices about how I show up with that person. I can set a boundary, I can walk away, I can accept it, I can do a whole bunch of things. But first, I have to go in and heal and make it okay within myself and know that that person is just being a mirror to me. Like that's some of the ways that I look at radical self-responsibility. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, it is about awareness. It is truly about awareness that I am in charge of my life's experience.
Yes.
So therefore, we don't control anybody. So when we are in victimhood, and victimhood can be subtle or overt or anywhere on that spectrum, right? Given any different circumstance. When we are, I forgot what I was going to say real quick, but victimhood is when you are still living in that. Why is this happening to me? I have bad luck. Oh my God, this is just what happens to our family. Something's always happening. We get a little going and then boom, something happens. So when you get radical, you start to say, okay, wait a minute, hold up. I am not a victim to this. And the minute you take that posture, you've put yourself in a place of empowerment versus victimhood. And it can happen that quickly. Just say, how's this happening for me? What's happening here for me? I don't have to even receive this phone call or this person's statement or whatever it is. Let me see, what is this asking of me? And normally, almost in every instance, it is asking you to be more empowered from your own set of standards, your own way of being. And we are only open to other people's energies, emotions, bad words, cheating, if we're open to it. If we can really stay in our lane, which is how I teach boundaries, is to get in your lane and become the best version of yourself in awareness, then it really isn't going to matter per se what's coming at you when you realize it's for you and you have the ability to metabolize it and alchemize it to your highest honor. And so let's just say, women, you're in a partnership where somebody has cheated on you, okay? When you say, my partner cheated on me, you're a victim to someone else's behaviors. As soon as you put it in its right context, my partner cheated, with a period at the end, with a period, it's back where it belongs. And it's not on you. It's an act that they did. Remove yourself, even though when you're emotionally involved in everything, believe me, I understand how difficult that is. But I'm talking about radical awareness here. So put the action with a period at the end of it and leave the on me off of it. Can you believe what she said about me? Can you believe that so-and-so did this to me? Can you believe my boss did this to me? No, your boss did that. You come over here. How do you want to receive it? And so when I talk about radical, I'm talking about radical responsibility. And most people, we don't know we can even think like this. I feel blessed to have this awareness that has just kind of been growing in me and shape shifting my own life and going, oh my God, this is powerful. This is life altering. This is shifting consciousness in the consciousness. If we all get into our own lane and become self-led leaders, and it will change everything for you. And when you change, you give other people the opportunity to change too, or not, but it's not for you. You're not over there trying to prove yourself. You're not trying to explain yourself. You're just being amazing over here. And if that person wants to kind of come into your vortex, then they're either going to have to get their shit together or they don't get to come in. And it's not from ego here. This is a standard. If we would all kind of get radical with ourselves, like we really would shape shift things. And I don't subscribe to time, linear time. We're inculcated into linear time. That is not how time works. I mean, yes, we live by a clock. What I teach my clients about is how do you insert yourself in time? So you insert yourself, and I'm not talking about the clock ticking. I like the time, like how do you experience things? And sometimes because we think everything takes time, that's a story we're subscribing to. I work with entrepreneurs. Oh, well, I'm new. I've got to build my way through. Well, no, you don't. You can enter the stage at whatever level you want to be, but you have to believe it. You have to be it. So therein lies the work that does take time, but we don't stop the clock. I don't believe in stopping the clock to go get ready. So it's kind of like building the plane while you fly it. And sometimes my clients will say, well, you're telling me that I don't have to stop and get ready, but you're also telling me to come out in excellence. Which is it? And I'm saying both. Both. Come out in excellence today. Now, do you want to be more groomed? Do you want to be more, a more skilled speaker? Do you want to enrich what you're offering? Okay, well, go over here and work. But today you got to come out. Today you come out with who you are today, and you will receive information one way or another if you look at it as such, because most people are open to what people are saying about it. It's either good or it's bad or it's bleh. You have to know what it is. You have to know what it is. It's not about if you get a like or a heart or a comment. What if you never get a comment? Does that mean you're not good? Are you in full presence with your calling? Because I know I am, and I'm not looking for the hearts or the likes at this point. I mean, I know we do in the beginning, but that's a lower level of awareness of your mission. I'm here for the mission makers. Like I am bringing people up to excellence for real. So we don't have time for hearts and likes and comments. And even if they're positive, yay, that feels amazing from your ego standpoint. But I actually don't need someone to say you're amazing. I just need to know that I have something very, very valuable to bring here. And I do know that. So if you don't tell me it's amazing, that's okay. That's your interpretation. I already know it. That's how strongly rooted in it I feel.
I get that because I just, maybe it's about a month ago, I do TikToks a lot on people pleasers and the perfectionists. So I was, and I'm at this point, I just started with TikTok. So I'm not getting like the likes and the comments and everything. And then all of a sudden I, really got into my message, and I was really just in the message and putting it out there from my heart space. And I noticed that after those few videos, I got a little bit of an uptick. So it was like, oh, and I woke up in the morning, there was all these notifications on my phone about like, and so I jokingly, but also at the same time was also giving another message on TikTok that I followed up with another one explaining that how my initial response reaction was from ego of ding, 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 ding. Like I got the endorphin hit, like getting the straight A's when I was in school. It was the same external validation. And I used that as a learning opportunity to say that really truthfully, whether or not I get that or not, I'm good. I'm good. I don't need the validation. I'm here to share a message that you can go from people pleasing and perfectionism to becoming powerful, that you are worthy, you are lovable, all that stuff doesn't define, like you said, doesn't define who you are. And it was just such a great opportunity because I saw my ego, I saw that pattern fall into it. So
well, we're groomed that way, right? I mean, I call it the red pen syndrome. Our schooling is all about the red pen syndrome. Someone else is going to tell us whether we get the 100, whether we get the 90, whether we know what we're doing, whether we failed at what we're groomed all those years to look at the red pen. Like, did I get it? What does she think? What does he think? And
it's awful.
No. So, once you come to the awareness that you define yourself, your soul is defined, it's liberating. It's liberating and it's scary. I have to hold space for that unknown space from changing paradigms, and we have a lifetime of running them, so they're automatic. It's not easy I say it's free, but it's not free, meaning it is free to work on this and rewrite your paradigms and build this inner sovereignty, but it's not free of your time, your effort, your commitment, your daily reconvening with self. I mean, this is work, but it's the most beautiful and fruitful work available to everyone. And so it's free, but it's not free. I often talk in oxymorons, but I have another statement that I say, what you permit, you promote. And it's a radical statement. Hey, what are you permitting that for? But you don't understand. I was really doing it. And then I'm like, no, I do understand. I do understand. We have to eradicate the noise by commitment every time. So for me, with my own children, with my son, he's 14, I'm really training myself not to give him false hits of, oh, you're amazing. And even when he does something amazing, and now I often now find myself intentionally saying, how do you feel? What do you think? How did you feel when you got that grade? Instead of me saying, oh my gosh, that's amazing, you're so smart. What if I'm not there to say that down the road? So why do I want to train him to listen for mom's praise? This is an alert awareness on me, because I want him to be a sovereign human being. I want him to have an internal locus of control. I want him to be able to hold himself through whatever life throws at him. And I caught myself, because, we don't want our kids in pain. And even when he was younger, I really caught myself one day trying to bring him through his pain quickly. It was sad. It was the end of the school year. I was sad too. And so I wanted to move us through to happiness, kind of like, let's go get the ice cream and make it better. And here's the thing. These are life's little lessons for life's bigger lessons. Let someone be in that energy of pain. Life is full of pain. And if you don't have a way to manage yourself or be able to permit yourself to feel it and own it and know that it might be painful right now, but in a couple of days it'll be better, I would be robbing him of his own inner growth. And so all of my own personal experience is just making me an amazing parent to him. So he's a sovereign human being, which is what we're all really here to preach for.
Totally. And it's beautiful, beautiful way to bring our conversation to a close. And I want to just underscore that is such a great example also, I feel, of radical self-responsibility, because you were able to stop and pause and say, like, if I do this with my son, this is going to be the outcome, but I can stop and pause and do it differently so that it has this different outcome. And that's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It's just running from emotions never proves to be fruitful in the end. And yet we want to get to the ice cream.
I know.
So no one has to feel it.
I loved ice cream. So I have 5 rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. The first one is, what's your favorite food?
Anything spicy.
If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Back to Italy with my sister.
What's your favorite way to take care of yourself?
Doing my morning miracle method that I devised.
Nice. If you could name just one book that changed your life, which would it be? I know it's
Oh my gosh,
hard to just name one.
The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles.
Okay, cool.
I mean,
And
there's so many, but that one was pivotal.
Awesome. And then the last one would be one tip or takeaway for the listeners.
Ooh, put yourself on your calendar, meaning I love to do it before the world wakes up, but not everybody's a morning person. But commit to putting yourself on your calendar in communion with self. Not from, I'm going to write my to-do list, I'm going to plan my, no. Convene with self to hear your own voice, to call yourself out of those masks and see what needs spoken, because we have our own answers, but we don't put ourselves on our calendar. So that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, I get it. So if the listeners want to find you, how can they find you?
On Facebook as Deborah Ann Corbin. I'm there a lot. But I have my website, deborahcorbin.com/home right now, where they can actually catch a free confidence workshop that I did. That's pretty radical, and it's worthwhile. So yeah.
Awesome. And I will have that in the show notes as well, so that it's easy to find. So thank you so much for being here. It's been a while in the making. Like, our mutual friend tried to put us in contact a while back, and it didn't happen then, but it happened now, and it's all divine timing. It was a great, great conversation for sure.
Thank you so much for having me and connecting, and it's my pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into another episode of Masks Off. I'll see you next week. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would love for you to comment and/or subscribe. Have a great week.